My brother betrayed me with my girlfriend for 6 months. I erased him for 26 years. But when he tried to use my daughter's wedding to look good on social media, she exposed him with 800,000 views and destroyed his reputation. I'm 46 years old. I work as a financial consultant, and basically, I haven't spoken to my brother in 26 years. And when I say I haven't spoken to him, I mean I literally erased him from my life as if he never existed. People think I'm stubborn, dramatic, that I can't forgive. But what happened over 2 decades ago completely changed me. And until a few weeks ago, I thought I'd made the right decision. Now I'm not so sure. But let me tell you the whole story because I need to get this off my chest. I grew up in a relatively small town with my parents, Arthur and Beverly, and my brother Dennis, who was 2 years younger than me. We were a normal family, I guess. Nothing extraordinary. My brother and I got along fine as kids. You know, we did the typical brother stuff, fought over stupid things, played together, that kind of thing. When I got to my 20s, I met Patricia in college. We dated for almost 3 years, and I was completely in love with her. Like I thought she was the woman of my life. I could already see myself marrying her and having kids. It was that time in your life where everything seems perfect and you think nothing can go wrong. You know what I mean? Dennis at that time was like 18 years old. He was in his first years of college, and he came to visit us a lot. Patricia and I lived together in a small apartment near campus, and Dennis spent quite a bit of time with us because, I don't know, I guess he liked being with his older brother and his girlfriend. I trusted him completely. Obviously, he was my brother. Why wouldn't I trust him? Patricia also got along well with him. Too well, as it turns out. But at the time, I didn't see anything weird. It was just my brother being friendly with my girlfriend, nothing out of the ordinary. The thing is, I started noticing little details that didn't add up. Patricia would get weird when I mentioned Dennis was coming to visit, like nervous but also excited, and Dennis started coming more often. Like every weekend, without fail. Once I came home early from work, I was like 20 years old at that time, and I found Dennis in my apartment with Patricia. They said they were watching a movie, that Dennis had arrived early and decided to wait for me there. I didn't think much of it, to be honest, but looking back, I should have seen the signs. Everything exploded one night when I came back from a work trip. I'd been away for like a week and a half, and when I got back, I found Patricia acting super strange. She was distant, wouldn't look me in the eye, and when I tried to kiss her, she basically pulled away. I asked her what was wrong and she started crying. And then she just blurted it all out, just like that. She told me she'd been having an affair with Dennis for the last 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. While I was working like an idiot to pay for our apartment and plan our future together. I can't describe what I felt at that moment. It was like the floor beneath me had disappeared. I just stood there, unable to process what I'd just heard. My girlfriend, the woman I loved, and my brother, the person I trusted most after my parents, had been behind my back for half a year. And the worst part was, they'd been doing it in my own house, in my apartment, probably in my bed. I felt like I was going to throw up. I literally felt physically nauseous. I yelled at Patricia. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know I yelled at her quite a bit. And then I called Dennis. When he answered the phone, I told him I knew everything, and to come to the apartment immediately. He arrived like half an hour later, and when he opened the door, I don't know, I expected him to at least look sorry, embarrassed, something. But the guy walked in like nothing, and the first thing he said was, "Look, Frederick, these things happen. It wasn't planned. Can you believe it?" As if sleeping with my girlfriend for 6 months was an accident, a mistake of no importance. I completely lost control. I yelled at him to get out of my house, that I never wanted to see him again in my life. Patricia tried to calm me down, saying we could talk, but I was already beyond the point of being able to have a rational conversation. I told them both to get out, to go to hell, and basically kicked them out of my apartment that same night. Patricia left crying. Dennis left with this expression of, I don't know, like annoyance, like I was overreacting. The days after were horrible. My parents found out, obviously, because Dennis went running to tell them his version of the story. According to him, they had fallen in love, that they hadn't wanted to hurt anyone, but love just happened. My parents called me telling me I needed to calm down, that they were brothers, that family was more important than any girlfriend. My mother, Beverly, told me I should forgive him because he was my brother, that girlfriends come and go but family is forever. That broke me even more, to be honest. Not only had I lost my girlfriend and my brother, but my own parents were minimizing what had happened. I told them no. That I wasn't going to forgive that what Dennis did was unforgivable, and I kept my word. I cut off all contact with Dennis completely. I blocked his number, deleted him from all my social media, and basically acted like he was dead. When my parents organized family gatherings, I'd ask if Dennis was going to be there. And if the answer was yes, I didn't go. Simple as that. Years passed, and Dennis ended up marrying Patricia. When I found out, I felt a mixture of disgust and bitter satisfaction, because at least it confirmed I wasn't crazy, that there really was something between them. They had a son together, built a life. I moved on with my life too. I met other women. No serious relationships for a long time, because, I'm not going to lie, what happened left me with massive trust issues. But eventually, things got better. Like, 8 years ago, I met Denise at a work event. She's amazing, super understanding, and from the beginning I told her the whole story with Dennis and Patricia. She completely supported my decision not to have contact with my brother. My parents never stopped pressuring me to forgive, especially on birthdays, Christmases, in that kind of occasion. But I stood firm. Sometimes my mother would cry, saying it hurt her to have her children separated, and I'd respond that she should have thought about that when she defended Dennis instead of supporting me. Fast forward to, like 2 months ago. I have a daughter, Julia, from a previous relationship I had in my 30s. Julia is 24 now and engaged to a great guy. She knows the whole story with Dennis. She's always known because I never lied to her about why I didn't see her uncle. She respected it, never pressured me about it, and I thought we were on the same page. One day, Julia came to my house, sat down in the living room, and told me I needed to talk to me about the wedding. I was paying for most of the wedding, which was going to cost like $45,000 in total, and I'd been involved in all the planning. So when she said we needed to talk, I thought it was about flowers, or the menu, or something like that. But no, she looked at me with this nervous expression and said, "Dad, I've been thinking, and I think it would be nice to invite Uncle Dennis and his family to the wedding." I froze. I literally couldn't believe what I'd just heard. I asked her if she was serious, and she started with the whole speech about how it's her wedding, that she wants all the family there, that it's been so long, that Dennis is her uncle, even though they've never had a relationship. I told her no, absolutely not, that if Dennis and Patricia were going to be at that wedding, then I wasn't going to attend. And not only that, I told her that if she invited them, I wasn't going to pay a cent for the wedding. Julia started crying, told me I was being unfair, that it was her special day and I was ruining it. But I was furious, like I couldn't think clearly. I told her she knew perfectly well what Dennis had done to me, that she knew why I had no contact with him, and that if she wanted him at her wedding, then she was choosing his side. Denise, who was there during the whole conversation, tried to calm me down, but I was already too upset. The next few days were a nightmare. Julia was angry with me, wouldn't answer my phone. My parents found out, obviously, and started calling me, telling me I was selfish, that I was destroying my daughter's wedding over a 6-year-old grudge. Julia's mother, Gloria, also called me, yelling that I was a horrible father, that I was using the wedding as a way to manipulate our daughter. Basically, everyone in my family was against me. Denise was the only one who supported me. She told me she understood my position, that what Dennis did was unforgivable. But she also suggested I think about Julia, that maybe I could make an effort just for that day. I told her no, that it was a matter of principle, that if I gave in now, then everything I'd maintained for 26 years would mean nothing. A week later, Julia showed up at my house without warning. I thought she was coming to apologize, but no, she came with Dennis. Yes, my brother was standing at the entrance of my house for the first time in 26 years. Julia said she'd organized a surprise meeting so we could talk and work things out. I was in total shock, couldn't even speak for a few seconds. And then I saw Patricia getting out of the car behind them. I exploded. I yelled at Julia, how dare she bring them to my house, to my space, without my permission. I told Dennis He had exactly 5 seconds to get off my property, or I was going to call the police. Dennis tried to speak, said something like, "Frederick, it's been 26 years. Don't you think that's enough?" And that made me even angrier. I yelled at him to leave, that he had no right to be there, that I hated him and always would. Julia was crying. Denise came out of the house when she heard the yelling, and the whole scene was a complete disaster. Patricia also tried to say something, but I didn't even look at her. I just told them all to leave. Julia yelled at me that I was a bitter and pathetic man, that I was wasting my life hating my brother for something that happened decades ago. That hurt. Coming from my daughter, it hurt a lot, but I was so angry I couldn't even process it properly. They left, all three of them, and after that, there was one call after another. My parents called me furious, my mother crying, saying I was a monster, that Dennis had tried to extend an olive branch, and I'd rejected it with violence. My father, Arthur, told me I was a disgrace, that I was too proud and stubborn for my own good. Gloria called me, saying Julia was devastated, that her wedding was ruined because of me. Like 2 weeks passed where I basically didn't talk to anyone except Denise. She listened when I needed to vent, but she also asked me difficult questions, like, "Is it really worth losing your daughter over this? Can't you just go to the wedding and ignore Dennis?" I didn't have good answers to those questions. To be honest, because part of me knew I was being stubborn, but another part of me felt that giving in would be betraying myself. Then Julia showed up again, this time alone. She sat with me and apologized for the ambush. She said it had been a bad idea, that she shouldn't have brought Dennis without warning me, that she understood why I'd gotten so angry. And then she told me she'd decided not to invite Dennis to the wedding, that I was her father and my presence was more important to her than that of an uncle she'd never known. I felt enormous relief, like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I hugged her and told her I was sorry, that I didn't want to ruin her wedding, that I loved her. But the story doesn't end there. Because it turns out, things got even more complicated. Like a week later, Julia called me and said she needed to tell me something. Apparently, she'd had a conversation with Dennis after all the drama, and Dennis had confessed something interesting to her. The real reason Dennis wanted to go to the wedding wasn't to reconcile with me or to celebrate with Julia. It was because his own son was planning to get married soon, and Dennis wanted to be able to show on social media that our family was united again to look good before his son's wedding. Basically, he wanted to use Julia's wedding as a public relations opportunity for his own image. When Julia told me that, I felt a mixture of anger and satisfaction. Anger because it confirmed that Dennis was still the same manipulative idiot he'd always been, and satisfaction because it meant I'd been right not to trust him. Julia was also furious. She told me she felt used, that Dennis hadn't shown any real interest in her until she was useful to him for something. What happened next was incredible. Julia decided to confront Dennis and Patricia directly. She organized a meeting with them at a coffee shop, like neutral ground, and basically told them everything. She told them she knew their true intentions, that she was disappointed, that they'd tried to manipulate her. Patricia tried to deny it, but Dennis basically admitted it, said something like, "Well, yes, I thought I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. What's the problem?" Julia recorded that whole conversation on her phone, and not only that, she decided to do something I never would have expected. She uploaded a video to social media, TikTok specifically, telling the whole story. She explained what Dennis had done to her father 26 years ago, how he'd tried to manipulate her to go to her wedding, and showed excerpts from the conversation where Dennis admitted his true intentions. The video went viral, like it had 800,000 views in 3 days. The family exploded, obviously. My parents called me blaming me for influencing Julia to do that, which is crazy because I didn't even know she was going to upload the video. Dennis and Patricia were destroyed in the comments. People called them manipulators, narcissists, all kinds of things. Some family members who had been on Dennis's side suddenly started seeing things differently. Julia's wedding was 2 weeks ago. It was beautiful. Really beautiful. Dennis and Patricia obviously weren't there. My parents did go, though they clearly weren't happy with me. During the reception, my mother came up to me and said she hoped I was happy, that I'd destroyed any possibility of family reconciliation. I told her that Dennis had destroyed that possibility 26 years ago, when he decided to sleep with my girlfriend, not me. Something interesting happened during the wedding. My father, Arthur, who had always been on Dennis's side, sat down with me during a quiet moment, and we had a real conversation for the first time in years. He told me he'd seen Julia's video, that he'd heard what Dennis said in that coffee shop, and that he was starting to see things differently. He didn't apologize directly, but he said something like, "Maybe I didn't completely understand how much all this hurt you. It's not much, but it was something, I guess. Now I'm here, 2 weeks after the wedding, and honestly, I don't know how I feel about everything. On one hand, I feel vindicated. For 26 years, they called me bitter, resentful, unable to forgive, and it turns out I was right not to trust Dennis. The guy didn't change. He's still the same manipulative egotist he always was. On the other hand, I wonder if I wasted 26 years of my life clinging to this hatred. I don't regret cutting off contact with Dennis. That's not going to change. But I wonder if I could have handled things differently with my family. Julia and I are fine now. Better than fine, actually. She told me she understands why I held my position, that she respects that I had principles, and didn't give in just because it was easier. Denise has also been incredible through all this. She never judged me, just supported me. My parents and I are in a kind of limbo. We talk, but there's tension, and there probably will be for a while. Dennis sent me a text message a few days ago. It was short, said something like, "I hope you're happy now that the whole family is proving you right." I didn't even bother responding. I have nothing to say to him. And honestly, after 26 years, I no longer feel the need to justify myself or explain anything to him. People keep asking me if I'll ever forgive Dennis, if we'll ever have a relationship again. The answer is no. Probably never. And I know that makes me seem cold or unwilling to forgive, but the truth is, forgiveness doesn't mean you have to let someone back into your life. I cannot wish Dennis ill. I can hope he has a good life, but that doesn't mean I want to be part of it or that he's part of mine. What I do know is, I don't regret defending my boundaries, even when my whole family pressured me to break them. And I also don't regret teaching Julia that it's okay to walk away from people who hurt you, even if those people are family. That's probably the most important lesson from all of this, that family isn't an excuse to tolerate betrayal or manipulation. Yesterday, Julia called me to tell me that she and her husband are thinking about moving to another city for work. She asked me if I'd be okay with that, and I told her yes, go wherever makes her happy. And then she told me something that made me feel that maybe, after all, I handled some things right. She said, "Thank you for teaching me that it's okay to stand up for what I believe, even when everyone tells me I'm wrong." And that's enough for me, I guess.